Hi everyone, welcome back. So, the Doomsday Mother. And the reason I wanted to make a video about it is because not only is it an interesting but extremely sad case, it just highlights certain personality disorders that we don't often think or talk about. And as well as highlighting some of these, what should we call it? Cults, temple cults, or church cults. Well, we know they exist, and they have been around. All cults have been around for since the start of time, really, I suppose. But and I'm no expert. I'm just going by what I've observed through this documentary about this situation, and from dealing with, like, some of you out there, my viewers, and other people, from what I've observed over the years with dealing with narcissists and quite some nasty, toxic people, basically. And but there's one certain personality trait um, that isn't very often talked about as an actual disorder. So I'll mention it briefly in this, but we'll go on to the whole thing, um, what leads up to the ending, if you like, on another one, because I don't want to go on for too long. So let's get going. So let's just call her Laurie Vallow for now. She seems to have grown up in just a normal, stable environment. Her parents never, so far that we know, she never. There's no reports that she harmed any other children at school or hurt any animals. So far, to begin with, you'd think, she'd stable environment, no reason for concern really. And then she married her high school boyfriend. She had a son, her oldest son, called Colby. That sadly didn't work out, and she moved on and met this Joe Ryan guy who you see on your screen here. Now, sadly, he abused her children. With Joe Ryan, she had a little girl called Tylee. She was excited about having her, etc., etc. But sadly, her oldest son told her that Ryan was abusing them. I won't mention the word because I don't want to trigger anyone. And so Laurie took the kids and done a runner, which is a good start. Any sensible mother would do the same. Now, as far as it shows on the documentary, by that point she'd already sort of joined some kind of temple, and did say that if she didn't join the temple, she would kill him. Which, if you stand outside and look in, that thought process from an abuse victim is probably a natural response. But there's no reports of her having any therapy for that, her or her children. But it seems to me that the temple is her sort of therapy, although obviously it leads to be a very toxic cult. So in her head, she's thinking the temple is her sanctuary, her place where she can speak out how she feels, and that's all a very good start in how having to deal with what you've been through. So she didn't go on to act on her thought process. She did the right thing and spoke about it and sought help for it. So that's a good start. So at this point in that marriage to Ryan, there's already a hell of a trauma embedded in her family unit. She where's it? Sorry, I had to write some notes, but I can't read my own handwriting. Oh dear. But by then she'd already said to someone that she'd been seeing angels, that an angel came to kiss her, and by that point her beliefs were, becoming a bit extreme and quite bizarre by the looks of things. She went on. Now, by this point, she'd obviously divorced Ryan, but she seems to have gone on to the next man quite quickly. So just remember, been brought up to know right from wrong by living with her parents and having a normal childhood. So she's met a bloke called Charles, bless his heart. Um, he seems to be the only man that brought stability into her family unit. He was loving, caring. He took her kids on. He had some boys, and they all got on really, really well. And as Colby says in the documentary, it was the only dad he ever had. So it's gone from stable upbringing, bad choice of men, and you would have thought she'd found Mr. Right, which obviously she did, and things were looking up for them. Charles's family asked him and Laurie to adopt a little boy who suffered with autism called JJ. Now that was all good. Laurie, bless her heart, she took him on as his own, and it was really looking well for the family. And JJ himself brought stability to that family, and Colby entirely loved him, and it was just all what seemed to be, a complete unit. So shortly after moving to Hawaii, because they all moved to Hawaii, they're all excited and happy. She became friends with a lady. Sorry, I can't remember her name. But her friend was starting to notice her beliefs in this temple were getting a bit more extreme. She felt frustrated and that Charles was holding her back. So at that point, you need to be a bit concerned, I think. Now, Colby, Laurie's oldest son, met his wife called Kelsey. They got married, but Laurie seemed to want to control everything. She by the sounds of it, she got sort of like rid of Tylee for the wedding, because Colby was saying that he was upset and frustrated that there was no wedding photos with his little sister in there. So it seemed to me personally, in my opinion, that Laurie was starting to show herself as a control freak and not a very nice person. So a bit of game playing going on here already by the looks of it. Kelsey noticed something was up, and that Laurie became very passive aggressive. Now, in my opinion, I think a lot of people, without realizing, and some abuse victims use that as a defense mechanism, but there is an actual trait of that personality called passive aggressive personality disorder. And in my opinion, that is a certain personality disorder that people seem to forget about, because they don't really class it as that toxic. But in my opinion, I think that's one of the worst ones, because it's quite sneaky, quite a sneaky personality disorder. And I think we're all guilty of being passive aggressive. Like I said, some people use it as a defense mechanism. Some people use it a lot, and when they do use it a lot, that's reason to be concerned. So Laurie was starting to be very, very passive aggressive, as Kelsey's saying, with a sarcasm, making sly digs, bizarre comments, and really manipulating Colby. So basically, Laurie's wants Colby all to herself. He doesn't want, she doesn't want him to have his own life, basically. So already you're starting to see a sort of like narcissistic personality coming out with Laurie. And by this time as well, her aggressive needs for her religion, her temple cult thing was getting more bizarre. And she was already starting to, as people were saying, that she was so fearful of the end times that she started stocking up on food and really going to those sort of, extreme levels. I mean, personally, if you've got the room, it's always good to stock up anyway. But when she says the next thing, apart from stocking up on food and light bulbs and whatever she was doing, She also mentioned that she thought about driving off the cliff in her car with the kids in her car so that they wouldn't have to go through the trauma and horribleness of the second coming. So, yeah, all of this was Laurie on her own, really. All she needed in the next part is this Chad guy to really kick it all off. But I wanted to point out really that passive aggressive behaviour, like I said, we're all guilty of it. That's just reality of life. Some people use it, mostly abuse victims seem to use that as a defense mechanism. So it's always good to look out for these, these little sneaky personality disorders like that, because like I said, I think that's the worst one of them all, really, because you really don't see that coming at all, because it can go on and on and on. And it's only until you really get to know the person and you start to sense something's up. But that's just my opinion. I'm no expert. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. If you have watched it, what did you think? And what else did you notice apart from a rather bizarre woman, shall we say? But anyway, for now, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.